Chris Creator made a stitch of me, so I will respond respectfully. Of course, you and I disagree on the SAVE Act, not because I'm just evil and don't care if poor people have the right to vote, right? It's because we have a difference in risk tolerance. See, people such as yourself will look at history and say something like this has been used and abused in the past, so we should stop it before it has a chance to happen. I'm not saying that's a bad line of thought, right? However, there are people like me who look at this and say this one step does not seem unreasonable.
So the problem here is that you are approaching a bill from a specifically emotional perspective. You are saying that it doesn't feel like a bad idea to you, but it doesn't matter how a bill feels or seems. What matters is what it does. And the problem is that in execution, it doesn't solve the problem that it's trying to solve. And I'll break that down for you in a second.
What you see as this is inevitable, it's going to happen, it's actually just a theory that you created. And I'm not saying it doesn't have, some logic to it. I'm just not assuming the worst outcome from the start. Like, that's not a radical thing.
This is politics. You absolutely do have to consider every single outcome, positive or negative, when it comes to laws being passed. You can't just simply trust politicians to do the right thing because they have an immense amount of wealth and power and they're handling a budget of $6 trillion a year. There's an old saying in Washington, D.C., if you want a friend here, get a dog, because you never know how people are going to act when they're handling that much money and power at the same time. And again, you're dealing with politicians. These are elite salespeople. How do you think they managed to pass the Indian Removal Act of 1830? Do you think that they marched around Congress declaring that they were going to make sure that Native Americans all died on the Trail of Tears? No, they found ways to sell it and rationalize it, and this bill is another version of that. You have to, in general, learn not to trust politicians and to see what the bills that they are pushing for actually do.
And if it goes further than that and they start stripping away hundreds of thousands of millions of people's rights to vote, then yeah, I would oppose that. I think that that's fairly normal.
So again, don't consider how a bill feels, consider what it does. What is the goal of the SAVE Act? To improve election integrity, reducing fraudulent votes. How does it do that? By raising voter registration requirements. Now, how many fraudulent votes were there in 2024? 20 according to the Heritage Foundation. How many total votes were cast in 2024? Over 158 million. So this is less than 0.1% of all votes cast in 2024 were fraudulent. Now, if you disenfranchise 21 voters with the SAVE Act, well, you have a net negative outcome. You are not helping people and increasing election integrity. You're just making it worse. So you have every single different step in order to vote, right? If you add an additional step in order to register to vote, that increases the variables and the likelihood that people will be disenfranchised, especially if you include monetary costs, such as finding and securing new documents, which not everyone can afford, which means that more people are likely to be disenfranchised if you increase the requirements but you don't add special provisions to make it easier to vote. The argument that you're presenting is largely emotional. You're claiming that I'm being overly alarmist, and you're voicing your support for the bill because to you it seems reasonable. But seeming reasonable isn't a basis for judging law, because it's not about how a law feels, it's about what a law does. And Congress has passed laws multiple times to thunderous applause, only to reveal over time that they had devastatingly bad results. And you need to be careful about what laws you support and what they actually do, because you never know how many people's lives you can affect for decades to come.